Emotional mastery is one of those things that separates the person who survives from the person who thrives. And the truth is, it's not something you're born with. It's not written into your DNA like your eye color or the shape of your hands. Emotional control, the ability to carry yourself with calm, grace, and strength under pressure, is something you learn. And more importantly, it's something you practice. Let's get one thing straight. Learning to act as if nothing bothers you does not mean you're becoming numb or heartless. It doesn't mean you ignore pain, bury your feelings, or fake your way through life with a painted-on smile. That's not emotional mastery, that's denial. And denial has a short shelf life. Sooner or later, the pressure builds up and it explodes. But real control, real poise that comes from knowing your emotions, not avoiding them. It means recognizing what you feel without letting it hijack your behavior. You take inventory of your anger, your frustration, your disappointment, and then you ask yourself, does this serve me right now? If it doesn't, you don't let it take the wheel. See, most people live on autopilot. They react before they think. Someone pushes their buttons and boom, they lash out. No pause, no filter, no control, but that reaction, that emotional knee jerk, is usually the most expensive decision in the room. Because once you give your peace away, it's hard to get it back. But when you learn to pause, even if it's just for a second, you reclaim your power. That second gives you time to choose, to respond instead of react. And in that space, in that quiet moment where you could explode but choose not to, you become untouchable. This is not something that happens overnight. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly stop being affected by things. It takes work. You have to train for it like you would for a marathon. You build that muscle by facing discomfort and not running from it. You put yourself in the heat and learn how to stay cool. Over time, you stop needing the world to be calm in order for you to be calm. And that's the difference between those who live free and those who live fragile. When you master your emotions, you no longer need everything around you to go right. You no longer depend on validation, approval, or even fairness. You realize that life will be unfair. People will be unpredictable, and circumstances will be messy. And that's not a threat to your peace anymore. People may call it acting, like nothing bothers you, but here's the catch. Once you train your mind to stay centered, it stops being an act. It becomes real. Your baseline becomes calm. Your standard becomes grounded. So even when something does shake you, you've got enough presence of mind to not let it show, not because you're pretending, but because you've trained for it. This kind of control becomes especially important when you're in high-stress situations at work, in relationships in public. When emotions run high, people look around for leadership, for grounding energy. And if you're the one standing still, breathing steady, speaking calmly, guess what? You become that leader, not because of a title, but because of your presence. Your calm becomes contagious. Emotional mastery is not about controlling other people or situations. It's about controlling the only thing you can, yourself. And when you get that part right, everything else becomes easier to navigate. You stop sweating the small stuff. You stop giving power to petty things. You save your energy for what actually matters. And here's the thing, people start to respect it. They may not say it out loud, but they notice it. They see you walk into a room unbothered, not because you don't care, but because you've got bigger things on your mind. That kind of energy is magnetic. It draws people in, not out of fear, but out of admiration. It doesn't mean you won't ever feel things. It just means you won't be owned by those feelings. You can feel the heat without letting it burn you. You can feel the weight without letting it crush you. And that, right there, is the essence of emotional maturity. So the next time something tests you, someone cuts you off, disrespects you, tries to shake your peace, remember, you've got the tools, you've got the training, and even if you haven't mastered it yet, you're on your way. Pause, breathe. Choose your response, because emotional mastery isn't about pretending nothing bothers you. It's about becoming the kind of person who, when things do bother you, knows how to stay centered anyway. That's not just wisdom, that's power. Stillness gets misunderstood. People see someone quiet, reserved, not reacting, and they assume that person is weak, indifferent, or afraid to speak up. But what they don't realize is that stillness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of discipline. It's a signal of someone who knows how to conserve energy, how to choose their moments, and how to let the noise pass without needing to add to it. Stillness, in its purest form, is strength under control. When you learn to stay still, especially in moments when everything around you is loud, chaotic, or emotionally charged, you send a message without saying a word. You tell the world, I'm not here to react. I'm here to observe. I'm here to understand. I'm here to respond with purpose, not emotion. And that kind of energy, the kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't scramble, doesn't compete to be the loudest, has weight. It has power. Think about nature for a second. The ocean, when calm, is still powerful. The mountains, silent and unmoving, are still commanding. Stillness doesn't mean absence of power. It means presence of control. It means you have the ability to keep your center when everything around you is trying to pull you off balance. There's something deeply valuable about knowing when not to move. Most people don't get that. They are trained by the world to react fast, speak first, argue back, prove their point, defend their name. And sometimes, sure, a reaction is necessary. But most of the time, reacting too quickly means handing over control. You give up your peace, your energy, your dignity, all to win a moment that probably won't even matter tomorrow. Stillness gives you the upper hand. It buys you time. It makes people wonder what you're thinking. While they're trying to predict your next move, you're buying clarity. You're measuring the moment. You're letting the storm pass before you take a single step. This isn't passivity, it's patience. It's wisdom. It's restraint rooted in confidence. Because when you're truly grounded, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to broadcast every thought or emotion. You trust yourself enough to wait. You know that not every fire deserves your water. And here's the twist. People start to respect you more when they can't predict your reactions, when they can't push your buttons, when they realize you're not easily rattled. Suddenly, your silence becomes louder than their noise. Your stillness becomes their discomfort, because now they're unsure. They don't know where they stand with you. They don't know how much power you're holding behind that quiet gaze. This is where leadership starts. Not in control over others, but in control over yourself. When you stay composed under pressure, others feel safer around you. They start to follow your lead, not because you barked orders or flexed your status, but because you've become an anchor in uncertain waters. Stillness is also clarity. When you're still, your mind clears. You stop reacting out of fear or ego. You start seeing the whole board, not just the piece in front of you. You begin to notice details, body language, patterns, energy, that people miss when they're too busy trying to make noise. In stillness, you think deeper. You feel more, not less. You connect more precisely to what matters. Now, make no mistake, this doesn't mean you bottle everything up. Stillness is not about suppression. It's about channeling. You feel the anger. You feel the doubt. You feel the heat, but instead of throwing it out into the world, you process it. You transform it. You let it inform you, not define you. And when you finally choose to speak or act, it's not a reaction. It's a decision. It's deliberate. It carries more weight because it wasn't rushed. Stillness also protects your energy. Every time you engage in unnecessary conflict, every time you react out of impulse, you drain yourself. And over time, that exhaustion piles up. But when you practice calm, when you let things slide that don't deserve your energy, you stay light. You stay sharp. You keep your fuel for the battles that do matter. There's a quiet kind of confidence that comes with this. A person who's at peace with themselves doesn't need attention. They don't chase validation. They don't perform for approval. Their power speaks through their presence, and that presence, that calm, grounded, composed presence, it fills a room more than shouting ever could. The irony is, once you stop trying to prove your strength, people start to see it more clearly. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the chaos. When you stop needing to win every argument, you start winning in life. Because stillness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to rise above. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to move fast to make progress. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay still, watch, learn, wait, and then strike with clarity when the time is right. That's not weakness. That's power in its most refined form. Detachment often gets misinterpreted. People think if you act like something doesn't bother you, you're cold. They assume you're distant, maybe even careless. But the truth is, strategic detachment is not about shutting off your emotions. It's about choosing where to place them. It's not about not caring. It's about caring wisely. About knowing when your energy is worth investing, and when it's better to pull back and protect your peace. Acting unaffected doesn't mean you're numb. It means you're centered. You've made a conscious decision not to give every situation, every person, or every opinion the power to dictate how you feel. That's not arrogance. That's wisdom. That's experience talking. There comes a point when you realize that not everything requires your reaction. Not every situation deserves your emotional involvement. Just because someone throws a spark your way doesn't mean you have to start a fire with it. Strategic detachment is recognizing the spark for what it is, and walking away before it becomes something you'll regret feeding. A detached mind is a focused mind. When you're no longer emotionally tangled up in every comment, every mood swing, every challenge, your mind gets clearer. You see things for what they are, not through the filter of how they make you feel in the moment. That kind of clarity is rare, and it gives you an edge, because while others are drowning in the emotional noise of the moment, you're seeing the bigger picture. This is not about pretending. It's about control, emotional control, mental discipline. When something goes wrong, when someone offends you, when life takes a left turn, your instinct might be to react fast, to feel everything deeply, to get pulled into the chaos. That's normal. That's human. But when you're practicing detachment, you learn to pause. You learn to let that emotional wave pass before you decide how you want to move. Detachment gives you options, and options are power. You're no longer a puppet pulled by every string of anger, frustration, or insecurity. You're the one holding the strings, and that makes all the difference. What most people don't realize is that reacting emotionally to everything is exhausting. It drains you. It stretches your attention thin. And at the end of the day, it leaves you burned out with nothing left for the things that truly matter. Detachment helps you filter the noise. It helps you say, "This isn't worth my time," without guilt, without explanation. When you choose detachment, you're not being cold, you're being intentional. You're deciding not to let temporary things cost you long-term peace. You're not ignoring people, but you are setting boundaries. You're not tuning out life, but you are protecting the parts of yourself that are easily overwhelmed, easily distracted, easily pulled out of alignment. The beauty of detachment is that it creates space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to observe without being overwhelmed by judgment or bias. That space allows you to choose your response rather than be ruled by reaction. And in that choice, you take back your power. You also become harder to manipulate. When people realize they can't get a rise out of you, they start to back off. The games stop. The emotional hooks lose their grip. You're no longer dancing to someone else's rhythm. You've got your own, and it's steady. Strategic detachment doesn't mean you don't care about outcomes. It means you don't let outcomes own you. You still work hard. You still show up. You still feel. But you don't tie yourself worth to what happens or how others respond. You stay grounded no matter what the result is. You keep your identity intact, whether you win, lose, or fall somewhere in between. You'll hear people say, if you care, you should show it. And that's true to a point, but caring doesn't mean losing yourself. It doesn't mean pouring everything out until you're empty. Detachment teaches you to love without obsession, to help without enabling, to give without losing yourself in the giving. It's about having your emotions, not your emotions having you. This approach makes you stronger in relationships, in business, in life. Because when you don't need things to go a certain way in order to be okay, you become more adaptable, more resilient. You stop taking things personally. You stop fearing loss. You learn to show up fully and let go freely. It's a kind of freedom. When you no longer let every external thing attach itself to yourself. Worth, you become untouchable. You move through life with more grace, more presence, and more intention. You stop trying to control what you can't, and you master what you can, your mind, your focus, your peace. Strategic detachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the maturity to direct your emotions with care. It's the power to stay steady when life gets shaky. And it's the wisdom to know some things are not worth losing your calm over, not because they don't matter, but because you matter more. The world reacts to how you carry yourself. That's not just a saying. It's a principle that shows up in everyday life whether you notice it or not. The energy you bring into a room, the way you move, speak, and even remain silent, tells the world how to treat you. People respond to what you project, and whether you mean to or not, you're always broadcasting something. If you carry yourself like you're easily rattled, constantly offended, always waiting for someone to upset your peace, the world will keep giving you reasons to feel that way. Not because it's targeting you, but because you're showing it how to approach you. You're signaling that your buttons are easy to push. And guess what? People push what's easy. But when you walk with calm, quiet certainty, when your presence says, I know who I am and I don't need your approval to feel grounded, people respond differently. You set the tone even if you don't say a word. It's like emotional posture. The straighter it is, the less weight you feel from the outside world. You start to realize that confidence isn't about being loud. It's about being composed, poised, unshaken. People watch more than they listen. They pick up on your body language, your expressions, your reactions. If you flinch at every challenge, they learn that you're someone who's easy to unbalance. But if you show consistency, grace under fire, calm under pressure, they start to trust your energy. They start to follow it. And that's how influence is built, not by dominance, but by presence. Carrying yourself like nothing bothers you doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It means you've trained yourself to manage what you feel without spilling it all over everyone else. That level of composure earns respect. It tells the world, I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to panic, over-explain, or compete for attention. I'm here, I'm grounded, and that's enough. Think of it this way: if you walk into a room and everyone is tense, panicked, and loud, the person who stays calm becomes the emotional anchor for the whole space. That calm becomes a signal. There's another way to handle this. It slows people down. It sets a new rhythm. And suddenly, your energy is leading, not reacting. This applies in relationships, too. If you constantly chase validation, people will treat you like someone who needs their approval to feel whole. But if you hold your ground kindly, clearly, confidently, people rise to meet you there. You teach them how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you respect your own boundaries, others learn to respect them too. If you stay steady when others get emotional, they either match your steadiness or reveal their own instability. Either way, clarity comes fast. Even in failure, how you carry yourself matters. Let's say you make a mistake, you own it, fix it, and move on without spiraling. People see that, and they realize you're not fragile. You're not stuck in fear or shame. You're someone who knows how to handle pressure. That makes people trust you even more, not because you're perfect, but because you're resilient. This way of moving through the world starts with one decision. I don't need everything around me to be calm in order for me to be calm. You take full responsibility for your state, your energy, your mood. And once you do that, the world stops having so much control over you. That's where your strength really shows. Because once you stop broadcasting anxiety, the world stops handing you reasons to be anxious. Once you stop projecting insecurity, you stop attracting people who try to exploit it. And once you show up as someone who cannot be easily thrown off course, the world starts to meet you with a little more respect, a little more caution, a little more admiration. It's not about faking it, it's about shifting your center of gravity inward. You move like someone who's rooted, grounded, not because life is easy, but because you've learned to weather storms without losing your footing. When the world sees that you're not constantly looking for a fight, but you're also not afraid of one, that's when your presence begins to speak for you. That's when people lean in, listen a little closer, and start to treat you differently. This is a skill. It's something you build day by day. You start by watching how you react. You train yourself to pause before responding. You remind yourself that composure isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about guiding them. So carry yourself with purpose. Speak when it adds value. Stay silent when silence has more power. Move through the noise without becoming part of it. And over time, you'll notice something. The world starts to adjust to your pace, not the other way around. Because when you act like nothing bothers you, the world begins to believe you. And once it believes you, it starts giving you less and less to be bothered about.